lot fewer sidelines when dealing with the Queen's Gambit accepted, and that's where we're at in this part of the series. So let's go ahead and jump in, and the definitive difference between the Queen's Gambit. We have the Queen's Gambit itself, and for edification of viewers, capturing on c4 is accepting the Gambit. Gambit being, I am offering material for extra time. So in this case, black is taking up the gauntlet and accepting Queen's Gambit, and hence we have the name. And after doing a considerable amount of research in this position, I felt like e3 is the best way to go. Knight f3 has been played quite a bit in the past, but black just gets a good position with being able to play bishop g4 and pinning that knight at some point. So I feel like e3, even though we're going to get an isolated pawn and that makes some people uncomfortable, I feel it's just the superior move here. So after e3, let's take a look at some of these sidelines first. If e5, well, we don't want to capture because that's going to end up trading a lot and doing a lot of wood shopping that is just not what we're looking for in the position. So we're going to get our first isolated pawn position, and just be used to it. This is what you're going to get frequently in these Queen's Gambit accepted positions. So after knight f3, it should be noted, bishop g4 can't be played in this position. Why? Bishop takes f7, followed by knight e5 check, where we're going to be picking up the b, and black's king is wide open, taking that L. So after knight f3, bishop d6, castle, castle, knight c3, knight c6. Now, there is no bishop takes f7 tactic, so we're going to make sure his bishop doesn't have a good square to go to. Rook e1, and now begins the improvement of our pieces. So, different ideas to look for. Had h6 not been played, we would have loved to have had our bishop go there. a3, rook c1, bishop a2, bishop b1, queen d3, where the bishop and queen line up for some potential mates. This is the dream. The dream is not a possibility here. We can't get our bishop on c1 to a good square. I think some people would want this a3, bishop a2, rook c1, bishop b1, queen d3 so bad they would decide to put their bishop on a less than optimal square on e3, but that's just not going to help us. So a3. Let's kick things off with leaving a square open for our b. There's no knight a5. You want to maintain the bishop pair in this open position. And keep in mind, from a previous video, when we talked about isolated pawns, black's goal is to trade off all the minor pieces. That makes it easy to play against the isolated d-pawn. Your goal is to keep the pieces on the board when you have the isolated pawn to attack, put pressure on the opponent. So, bishop f5, knight e5. We're saying, okay, if you trade, you're going to fix my isolated pawn. If you don't trade, my knight's on an excellent square. So black elects to take here, takes, knight takes d1, we don't want to lose a pawn for free, and e6 gets this situation where white is now fully developed. The full brunt of the bishops is seen in this game between Aronian and Carlsen from 2021, and I'll go through a few more moves here because it becomes a significant maneuvering game, but white actually went on to win, and I'll end it there. You guys can take a look at that in the database if you'd like to continue it. So, coming back to our position after e3, we've got c5, and same theme as we've seen before, we're not afraid to get the isolated pawn. Knight f3, and overall, if they're not going to stop bishop g5, queen e2, a3, rook on c1, rook on d1, potentially our queen is going to back up our bishop at some point. Overall ideas. So queen e2, rook d1, don't want to lose our d-pawn. Don't want to lose the bishop pair. Important to maintain. Bishop g5. Everyone's on flexible squares. Notice how white's pieces are now optimized. Now we got to figure out a way to attack. Typical attacking plan, drop the bishop back. Looking for mate. And I really like this game because it shows the potential of the attacking position, and it's played by two players that are 2,400 FIDE, and the game lasts only another few moves here. Well, in my notes, it probably lasted longer, but f6, hitting the rook, takes, isolated pawn no more. You often see this happen in the Tarrasch as well. When the pawns get connected, the hanging pawns are much easier to work with than an isolated pawn. And after bishop takes f3, g takes f3, this is not a position that you should be scared of with white. White actually went on to win. And you have the ability to play king h1 and rook g1 and actually use this open file for great effect. So that'll do it for the c3, c5 line. So see the main line with knight f6. We're going to capture on c4. And after c5, we're going to get our branches here. 1, a6. A lot of people have the knee-jerk reaction to play a4 straight away. That is not the best in my mind. It gives black easier play. So big memory marker here, we want them to take the space. We're going to play bishop b3, and we only have 2 more branches here, and we're going to see example games with both of them. So first of all, b5, let's see why I wanted to give him the space. We're going to play a4 only now because we're looking to secure some key squares. Knight bd2, and another critical moment, e4. Captures, e5. And for the price of a pawn, black's uncoordinated, he's getting kicked around. Let's put some pressure and go after him. Got that critical square we were after. All of our pieces are in it to win it. Keep in mind, if bishop e7, knight d6 check, where we're hitting the bishop, he cannot capture on d6 as he'll lose his queen. So f6, let's keep it going. Rook e1, you don't want any part of capturing on g5. Knight fe5, knight needed to get the knight out of the way so the queen can get in. And this position is so nasty, but it's played from Linnaeus 2014 between 2 very strong grandmasters, and white continues to place pressure pretty much this entire nasty game, which is just full of tactics and sacrifices, well worth a deep investigation in and of its own right. Coming on back, after bishop b3, we've got knight c6, and we're going to finish things up with a game between Kramnik and Anand from Dortmund 2001. We're going to see a very, very classical structure here. Bishop g5, queen's on d2, not on e2. If we go to e2, we could drop the d pawn. So we're going to see some gradual maneuvering. Don't want to lose your bishop pair. Can't emphasize that enough. You need that bishop for attacking purposes. And here it's critical. How are we going to get our queen lined up in the most effective way? Let's start with queen f4. We're covering the pawn. We've got our harmony. Now it's time to figure out a way to press the attack. Well, queen h4, h6. Is it enough? Love this next move by Kramnik because the only weakness we have in the position is the isolated pawn. So we're going to give the isolated pawn. We get the bishop pair. Now on queen h4, big threat. Bishop takes f6, queen takes h7 mate. h5 is played. Can't sacrifice on h6 if the pawn's not there. Everyone's involved. And on knight c6, This is a critical moment and memory marker in the position. Bishops are meant to be in open positions. We've got an open position. Our pieces are optimized. Bishop and queen, both bishops and queen look excellent. Both rooks are on open files. I don't see how I can improve my knight. What can we do to try to press the attack? Critical moment. If you're a pause your video and figure it out type person, now's the time. Hopefully you found the move. G4. We need to break through. Cannot capture in either case as it ends in material loss or devastation. So queen d6 and h6. Black was able to figure out a way to get some pieces off the board, but in the meantime gets to a lost ending, which against a player like Kramnik, it's not a place you want to be. Knight takes f7 and trades down to the 2 pawns up, rook and pawn ending. And I think even I wouldn't have a trouble in this position, which is understandable why Black resigned. And that will do it for our Queen's Gambit accepted. Again, keep in mind, we're looking at a structural orientation. I'm trying to point out the key memory markers and ideas as we're going through the lines, because you want to take snapshot pictures. When you get to the point in the position where you've developed all of your pieces, what's the plan? Where are my pieces going and why? What am I trying to accomplish? What am I trying to avoid? These are the types of questions you need to be asking when you're learning openings. If you can't answer them as soon as your pieces are done with the normal natural development, you don't know the position, and you need to either get a resource to figure it out or figure it out yourself. Hopefully you're enjoying this series so far. It's always fun to talk about openings and do this type of stuff. That's why I've done so many openings courses on Chessable. Little taste for the people that they've been asking for a white repertoire. Now, you got a little something to work with.